Hi, I'm Doug, and this is my son Brandon.
Hi.
We are going to show a how-to on how you would remove a dash from a 1969 Mustang, and the 1970 Mustang should pretty much be the same thing. This dash came out of a 1969 Mustang Mach 1, which would include the deluxe interior, which includes a dash clock on the passenger side. It also includes, the car also has the AC option. So I'm pointing that out because I understand there's a few differences in the cars. I think some of them won't have the vents in the center. And I believe if you don't have the deluxe interior with the clock, you will not, you will have some framing that comes out with the dash on the passenger side. Whereas we found, and you can see that by the parts up there, the deluxe interior with the clock, it actually stays attached to the car. When you take the dash out, and we'll walk through how to do that, the clock can actually stay attached to the car, and you can remove that afterward if you need to get back behind there. We ended up taking it out. So let's see. The different bolts, or rather it's really screws that you're taking out for the most part. It doesn't have that many, and I would say you could probably do this job in 30 minutes or less. We had a little bit of a struggle because we had some hidden screws, and I'll talk about that because it kind of surprised us. But first, we have the screws on the sides. So there was a screw right here that goes and allows this plate to slide up on here and hide what's behind the dash in this place. So we took this screw off, and then we took the side screw off, and this piece slid off. And you do that on both sides. Then you have a screw, or in our case we had a screw that screws in and holds the dash on right here at the bottom. You have that on both sides. So now you're 6 screws in, right? 4 on these, 2 on these. And then we took 3 screws off on the top of the front of the dash. You can, we'll show you again on where the clock is mounted. You can see the 3 screw holes that hold these in, but there's 3 on each side, 3 here, and then 3 on the instrument cluster side. That's another 6 screws that come out. And then there are 2 screws underneath here. We'll zoom in on it later, where it holds the bottom of the center of the dash in place. So you take those screws out. And I'm pretty sure in most car cases, maybe all car cases, you don't need to take the stereo or take any of that apart. You should be able to get to those 2 bolts or screws directly. Now, in my case, for some reason, these 2 screws were missing, so they may actually be bolts, but I assume there's some type of screw that goes there. And then the last thing is that there are 3 screws on the top of the dash, 1 in the center and 1 about on the middle of each instrument cluster section with the clock and the instrument cluster. And those screws, in my case, were actually hidden. And we'll show a little bit of a zoom in shot in a minute. But we had everything taken apart quite quickly and then couldn't understand why it wouldn't slide out. And the reason is that the 3 screws that went up top, they weren't showing. The foam from the dash material had actually covered them up. So I looked many times up there and I couldn't see any screws. Now, this dash is not the original dash. When I got the car many years ago, this dash had been replaced. So this dash is in very good new shape, and we were taking it out to replace some A-pillars covers, and we're going to do a separate how-to on that. But why I mention that is because this is a newer dash, those 3 screws were covered up. I think if it had been the factory original dash, I would have been able to clearly see those 3 screws, and we would have removed them and it wouldn't have been a big deal. But this cost us an extra 20, 30 minutes because we couldn't see them and I didn't think they were there. All right, so next, I think that covers walking through everything. We talked about every screw that would need to be removed and where they are. In a minute, what we'll do is go do some specific shots on where some of these things are.
There are about 9 screws in total, is what we had got.
All right, and let's show some close-ups. Okay, here we have the passenger side cover. And I just wanted to show everybody up close. So the first screw I took off was the one underneath. The second one was the one that is on the side where the door is. And then this just will slide right off. And then we have the same thing. Here's the driver's side piece. Same thing. We got one on the bottom and one on the side. Okay, this is a close-up on the dash on the specific spots. So this is the first one on the driver's side that'll start to remove the dash. You got one on the side. You're going to have 3 under the console, as we talked about. This is under the instrument cluster on the driver's side. You're going to have 2. I didn't have these for some reason. I'll probably replace them because I'm particular. And we have the 3 for, in my case, it was the clock cluster. And then we have the last one over here on this side. This is the passenger side. And then I want to tell people about something I ran into because this was an aftermarket replaced. We got stuck on these 3 at the top. There's this one. There's one in the center above the speaker. And there's this one. And it's pretty obvious right now. The problem that we ran into is these were screwed in all the way. And this is a foamy material on top with metal brackets underneath. And they were screwed in so far that they actually got hidden. And we couldn't see them. So I kept thinking that the previous owner who put in this new dash did not put these screws in and that we didn't need them. So I kept pulling on the dash and it wouldn't come out. Eventually I got my hand under there and I could feel that the screws were there. So I stuck the screwdriver down really, really hard. I finally got it to bite and we were able to back these out, get it out. And at that point, the dash comes right out. It's easy. It was no struggle at that point, but it was definitely through us because we could not see the screws. Hopefully that helps you. The next thing is I want to show you guys the interior of the dash. It comes with the kind of a horn that attaches for the AC vents. The other one thing mine has that maybe some don't have that you haven't seen, this one still has the speaker attached to it. It's only attached in 2 places. I don't know if it had more connections to hold it down originally, but it's got 2. And then it's disconnected because my car has a aftermarket stereo. But this is what it would look like if you were looking to replace or put back in the speaker. It sits in there just like that. And whatever dash they got, it's been a really good quality. I've been quite happy with it. We removed it for other reasons, but because I couldn't find a how-to that actually showed where and how to take this out exactly, we thought we'd make one. Hopefully it helps everybody out. Here you can see the 3 screws that we removed at the top of the clock cluster. And that's all you should need to do with the Mach 1 Deluxe interior. There were also 3 screws on the bottom. We had taken those out kind of playing with it, but we found out that it seems like that's not needed if you're just doing the dash. And then there is a screw that goes on the left side and the right side. In my case, somebody's already been behind the dash and for some reason the right side was broken off and the left side wasn't screwed in. And I have to say it was pretty sturdy. So I'm sure those screws, having them screwed on is useful, but it doesn't seem like it's necessary for it to be sturdy. Right. And this is what it looks like when you have everything out. It's kind of the carnage that's left over. You get an idea of what your dash is going to look like when it's out. I had no idea what things look like back there, even though I've owned this car for over 20 years. And eventually we're probably going to take the instrument cluster out as well. The reason we took our dash out in our case is we're replacing the pillars. The pillar covers, you can see on the other side, it's gone. And on this side, we have started to install an aftermarket one. Mine were broken at the top. And to replace them, there's a screw underneath the dash. You have no choice but to take the dash off.